Eli had trained for years to earn the uniform he now wore, but nothing in his preparation felt as strange as the assignment glowing on the screen in front of him. The words were calm and official, yet they carried a weight that pressed on his chest. A low-gravity world, cultural visit, observation only, minimal movement. The instructors around him spoke in careful tones, as if even saying the planet's name too loudly could break it. The world was small, light, and fragile, and so were the beings who lived there. Humans were not banned from visiting, but they were rarely sent. Human bodies were heavy. Human muscles were dense. Even standing still could be dangerous in a place where the ground barely held together. Eli listened as an officer explained the rules again. Move slowly. Never jump. Never run. Always wear gravity support gear. Never forget where you are. Eli nodded at every sentence, even though his thoughts drifted elsewhere. He wondered what kind of world could make a simple step feel like a weapon. The aliens of this world had evolved under soft skies and weak pull. Their cities were built wide, not tall. Their tools were light, their movements gentle. They feared sudden force the way humans feared fire in dry forests. To them, humans were legends more than people. Dense creatures from crushing worlds, shaped by pressure and weight. Eli had read the reports. Some described humans as walking disasters. Others used softer words, but the meaning was the same. Before departure, Eli stood alone in the hangar, staring at the shuttle that would carry him down. It was small and reinforced, built to handle sudden stress changes. Engineers moved around it, checking seals and instruments again and again. One of them paused and looked at Eli with a tired smile. "Just remember," he said, "down there you're the dangerous thing, even when you don't mean to be." The shuttle launched without ceremony. As Eli sat strapped into his seat, he felt the familiar push of gravity fade and return in strange waves as systems adjusted. The screen beside him showed the planet growing larger. It looked peaceful from orbit, wrapped in pale clouds and soft light. No storms, no sharp colors. It looked like a world that had never known violence. Eli wondered what he looked like to them, arriving from the dark above. As the shuttle entered the atmosphere, a quiet alert chimed. "Gravity stabilizers adjusting." Eli frowned and checked the readout. The numbers flickered for a moment, then steadied. He exhaled slowly. Minor fluctuations were normal, he told himself. Still, he kept his hands resting on the armrests, grounding himself, reminding his body to stay calm. The landing platform came into view, wide and open, made of layered material that flexed slightly even from a distance. Eli could see figures waiting far back from the center, tall, thin shapes, their limbs long and narrow, their heads tilted as if curious and afraid at the same time. The shuttle touched down so softly it barely felt like a landing. The engines powered down, leaving a deep, careful silence. When the hatch opened, Eli did not move right away. He waited for the signal. The gravity support suit tightened around his body, adjusting pressure and resistance. It felt like moving underwater. Slow, heavy, safe. Finally, the light turned green. Eli stood up carefully and stepped forward. The moment his boot touched the platform, he felt it. The pull was weaker than anything he had known. Even with the suit active, his body wanted to rise. He shifted his weight slowly, placing his foot down as if the ground might float away. The platform bent just a little under him. Somewhere in the distance, he heard a sharp intake of breath. Eli straightened, keeping his hands visible and still. The alien group remained far away, but one stepped forward. This one wore a band of soft color across its upper body, marking it as an official. Its voice came through the translator, light and trembling. "Welcome, human cadet. Please remain where you are." "I will," Eli said calmly. "I won't move unless you ask." The alien seemed to relax slightly. It introduced itself and explained the schedule for the visit. Observation, limited, interaction. No physical demonstrations. Eli agreed to everything. He could feel their eyes on him, measuring, judging, imagining what might happen if he fell or slipped or forgot himself for even a second. As the tour began, Eli followed at a careful distance. The city was unlike anything he had seen. Structures curved outward, supported by wide bases. Nothing was sharp. Nothing was narrow. Walkways floated slightly, anchored by flexible supports. The aliens moved with gentle steps, almost gliding, their bodies adapted perfectly to the light pull of their world. Eli focused on every movement. He turned slowly. He shifted his weight with care. Still, he could feel the strain in his muscles, fighting instincts shaped by Earth's heavy grip. Several times alarms flickered softly in his suit, as it compensated for movements that would have been normal anywhere else. They reached a viewing platform that overlooked a vast open space, a drop so deep Eli could not see the bottom. The alien guide stopped well back from the edge. Eli stopped even farther. He sensed tension in the air, a quiet fear that hung around him like a shadow. As they spoke about history and culture, a low vibration passed through the platform. It was subtle, almost gentle, but Eli felt it immediately. His training reacted before his thoughts did. He stiffened, eyes scanning. The aliens froze. Another vibration followed, stronger this time. A warning tone sounded somewhere in the city. "Please remain still," the guide said quickly. Eli nodded, but his attention snapped to the edge of the platform. One of the aliens, smaller than the others, had lost balance during the tremor. Its long limbs flailed as it slid toward the open drop. The distance was short, too short. Eli's mind screamed at him to stay still. Protocol, orders, warnings. But another part of him, deeper and older, reacted without permission. He pushed off the ground. The suit tried to stop him. Alarms blared. But gravity was weak, and Eli was strong. His body launched forward, not in a step, not even in a jump, but in a long, soaring arc. The world seemed to fall away beneath him. Air rushed past his ears. He saw the alien's wide eyes turned toward him, reflecting pure terror. From the alien side, it looked like a nightmare. The human left the ground and did not come back down. He flew. Eli caught the falling alien with one arm, wrapping it close to his chest. The impact of landing sent a shock through the platform. The surface bowed deeply, then held. Eli dropped to one knee, absorbing the force, muscles screaming as the suit strained to keep up. Silence followed, then screaming. Security systems activated instantly. Drones rose from hidden panels, their movements sharp and fast compared to the alien's gentle pace. Lights flashed. The alien Eli had saved clung to him, shaking, unable to speak. Eli slowly lowered the alien to the ground and stepped back, raising his hands. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice steady but tight. "I didn't think. I just reacted." The alien guide stared at him in horror. To them, the act had been impossible. A body that heavy should have shattered the platform. A creature that dense should not move like that. Whispers spread through the crowd, fear passing from one to another. The word spread quickly, carried by panic and misunderstanding. Flying demon. Sky threat. Weapon. Sky threat. Sky threat. Eli stood alone at the center of the platform as security drones hovered around him, weapons armed but unsure. He could feel the weight of every eye on him, the shift from curiosity to fear. He had come as a student, an observer. In a single moment, he had become something else entirely. Above them, unseen by those on the ground, the gravity stabilizers flickered again. Ellie could feel every eye on him as he took careful steps back from the edge of the platform. The alien he had saved, small and trembling, stayed close, almost clinging to his legs. He tried to kneel, to show he meant no harm, but the weaker gravity made even simple movements seem exaggerated. His body shifted too far each time, and the aliens recoiled as if he might fly again. He realized in that moment how different their world was from his own. Every step a human took carried weight and power they could not imagine. Every movement a threat, even if unintentional. The alien guide, whose name Eli learned was Rhine, stepped forward again. Rhine's long fingers hovered in front of him. A gesture Eli had been warned was a sign of calm, of peace. "Human," Rin said carefully. "You must be very careful. You are dangerous, even when you do not mean to be." Eli nodded, though he understood only in part. The words sounded strange in his ears, but he understood their meaning. To these beings, a human was like a living force of nature, unpredictable and unstoppable. Eli's gravity suit beeped softly, reminding him to adjust his stance. He slowed his breathing, trying to calm himself. The platform beneath him creaked slightly, flexing under his weight, and Eli felt a wave of embarrassment. In a world so light, so delicate, he could crush things without even touching them. Every motion needed to be measured, controlled, precise. His training had never prepared him for this. Training on Earth focused on speed, efficiency, strength. Here, strength was a danger, and speed could be deadly. "Are you okay?" Eli asked the small alien he had saved. The creature nodded but did not speak. Its eyes were wide, still filled with fear. He guessed it had never experienced a human before, never imagined a body could move the way his did. He wondered what the other aliens were thinking, watching him like some sort of flying predator. He could almost feel their fear pressing against him. Rin motioned for Eli to follow. The tour continued, but cautiously, with every step planned. Eli walked slowly, careful not to bounce, not to stumble, not to lift more than a small fraction of his weight at once. The city stretched around him, wide and low, with buildings that seemed to float above the soft ground. Bridges arched gently, never too high, never too steep. Walkways swayed slightly under his footsteps, and Eli realized that every movement of a human could feel like a threat here. He noticed the alien's eyes constantly darted toward him, measuring, calculating. One young alien named Firo took tentative steps beside him, keeping a safe distance. Firo's curiosity shone through fear. Every glance Eli gave him was met with flinches and quick retreats. Firo asked questions about Earth, about gravity, about the way humans moved. Eli answered carefully, choosing words that did not sound threatening, keeping his movements minimal. As they reached the central plaza, a tremor passed through the ground. It was subtle, barely noticeable to a human used to Earth's gravity, but enough to make the alien walkways wobble. Eli stopped immediately, placing both feet wide, letting the gravity suit stabilize him. Several aliens clutched at railings, some stepping back in fear. One small structure nearby shifted dangerously, the weight of even a small human threatening to break its supports. Eli's heart raced. He knew what could happen if the ground gave way. He tried to keep his weight centered, but the tremor had already started a chain reaction. A thin observation deck began to tilt, a young alien on it frozen in panic. Eli's instincts reacted before he could think. He moved quickly, but carefully, sliding his feet just enough to reach the edge without bouncing. He extended a hand, steadying the platform with his own body weight. The aliens gasped. From their perspective, Eli had almost leapt into the air, his body defying what they believed possible. One of them whispered the word again. Chow. Flying demon. Fear spread like wildfire. Eli could feel it, the tension in the air, the way the whole plaza seemed to shrink around him. Even though he meant no harm, he was already seen as a force beyond control. After the tremor passed, Eli helped the small alien down from the deck. Its legs trembled, and it leaned on him for balance. Eli realized he could not let them see him as a threat again. Every move he made now would be watched. He slowed his breathing and tried to stay calm, taking measured steps back to the main walkway. Rin spoke again, his voice trembling. "You must not move like that again. It frightens everyone." Eli nodded silently. He understood. On Earth, such a jump would have been heroic, saving a life in an instant. Here it made him a monster. He wished he could explain, wished the aliens could understand instinct, reaction, and human strength. They continued the tour, moving toward the learning halls where aliens studied their history. Eli stayed close to Rin, letting the guide set the pace. Every step felt deliberate, slow, like walking on a thin rope. He noticed the younger aliens whispering to each other, pointing and staring. The plaza that had seemed calm moments before now felt tense, alive with fear. As they reached a large open courtyard, Eli noticed something strange. The wind, faint but present, seemed to affect him differently than the aliens. Every small breeze lifted him slightly, tugging at his balance. He could feel the power in his body, the energy waiting to burst free if he misstepped. The realization hit him. On this world, a human could move in ways that no one else could even imagine. Firo, the young alien, noticed Eli's discomfort. He hesitated, then stepped closer. "Do you float?" Firo asked, his voice small, careful. Eli shook his head. "Not exactly," he said. Gravity here is weaker. My body reacts differently than yours." "Ah." Firo nodded, though he looked skeptical, as if he had never seen anything like this. The group stopped near a research building. Large glass walls allowed them to look inside. Inside, small aliens worked on experiments, moving instruments with delicate fingers. Eli felt the urge to step forward, to examine the equipment, but he restrained himself. One wrong movement, one misjudged step, and he could shatter everything. Rin guided him along the perimeter, explaining the experiments. Some of them measured plant growth. Others studied the low gravity's effect on liquids. Eli listened carefully, asking questions that were safe, avoiding gestures that could alarm. He noticed the researchers inside watching him with wide eyes. From their perspective, a human was not just large and strong. Eli realized they were measuring his movements, trying to understand the impossible physics his body could create in this world. A sudden alarm rang, not in the city, but inside the building. Eli froze. The aliens panicked, moving quickly but cautiously. Firo's eyes widened in fear. Ryan shouted instructions, pointing to emergency procedures. Eli followed as best he could, moving slowly but firmly, staying balanced. The building's instruments were delicate, and one of the supports began to wobble under even the lightest human pressure. Eli extended a hand and pushed it back into place. The aliens gasped. From their view, he was holding the structure with his own strength, defying physics. Ryan's voice shook. Do not touch that." But it was too late. Eli had already stabilized it. After the incident, the group moved back outside. Eli could see the tension in the alien faces. Whispers spread quickly. "Flying demon," some said again. "Weapon." Fear had replaced curiosity. Eli felt a pang of guilt. He had only tried to help, only tried to act. But the aliens could not separate instinct from danger. Every human movement was a threat, every jump a disaster waiting to happen. Rin led him to a resting area, wide platforms covered with soft materials to absorb weight. Eli sat carefully, testing each movement. Firo hovered nearby, still watching.
"You are strong," Firo said quietly.
"Too strong. We do not understand." Ellie nodded. "I know. I am trying to be careful." For a while, silence fell. Eli could hear the city around them, the soft hum of machinery, the quiet voices of aliens still watching. Every step he had taken was measured, every movement calculated. He felt the exhaustion creeping in, not from physical effort, but from constant control, constant awareness. As the sun shifted in the sky, casting long, pale shadows, Eli realized he could not let this fear define him. He was here to observe, to learn, but also to help. The aliens' fear was natural. They had never seen a body like his, never understood the power humans carried, but he also realized the challenge he faced. Every movement, every gesture would be scrutinized. One wrong step, and he could be the monster they feared, not the visitor they welcomed. That evening, Eli stood at the edge of the platform again. The sun was low, painting the sky in soft colors. The city glowed gently beneath him, fragile and delicate. He took a deep breath, testing the pull of gravity. Every step was careful, slow. Every movement measured. Yet he could feel the energy in his body, the strength that had saved an alien earlier, the force that made them call him a flying demon. He knew the coming days would be difficult. The aliens would watch him constantly, fear lingering in their eyes. He would have to learn their ways quickly, to adapt, to prove he meant no harm. And yet, he could not ignore the part of himself that was human, that moved instinctively, that reacted before thinking. It was Firo, still watching from a safe distance. "You must be careful tomorrow," Firo said. "They will not forgive mistakes." Eli nodded. "I understand. I will try." Eli stayed on the platform for a moment longer, gazing at the stars. Earth hung distant and heavy in his thoughts, a world that had taught him strength, endurance, and resilience. Here he had to learn patience, control, and caution. He realized that being human was both a gift and a danger. Above the city, the gravity stabilizers hummed softly. Eli felt the subtle pull of the world beneath him, the tension between strength and fragility. Tomorrow, he knew, would test him in ways he could not yet imagine. But for now, he remained still, careful, aware. The next morning, Eli woke early. The pale light of the world crept softly through the windows of the small quarters the aliens had provided. The air was thin, the gravity light, and every movement felt strange. Even sitting up took effort to control, as his body wanted to float slightly, resisting the gentle pull of the planet. He stretched slowly, careful not to make sudden motions. The events of the previous day weighed on him. He had saved an alien's life, yet the city still feared him. He could feel it in the way the watchers glanced, in the whispers that followed him wherever he went. Flying demon, weapon. words that burned as they repeated in his mind. Rin arrived shortly after sunrise. The alien's long fingers moved in a gentle gesture of greeting, but his eyes were cautious. "Human," Rin said softly, "today will be difficult. You must move slowly. Observe. Do not act unless necessary."
They are still afraid.
Eli nodded, understanding completely. The fear in their eyes was not unreasonable. A human moving freely in this low-gravity world was something beyond their imagination. One wrong move could cause panic or injury. He had to restrain himself, control instincts that had saved lives on Earth, but here made him appear dangerous. The day began with a guided tour of the outer districts. Eli kept close to Rhine, stepping with extreme care. The city was vast, wider than anything he had imagined. Buildings arched gently, pathways curved outward, and supports flexed slightly under every step. The aliens moved gracefully, as if weight was a concept they only barely understood. Eli followed, slow and deliberate, trying to match their pace, but he felt every muscle resist the limitations. Human muscles were made for strength and endurance, not this delicate restraint. Every movement felt wrong, unnatural, heavy, and dangerous. As they walked, Eli noticed children watching from a distance. Small, thin-limbed beings who had never seen a human before. Their eyes were wide, fearful, yet curious. One child dared to step closer, moving cautiously on the flexible ground. Eli bent slightly, lowering himself without sudden motions, trying to appear smaller, less threatening. The child froze, then slowly extended a hand. Eli smiled gently and mirrored the gesture. The child recoiled at first, then relaxed slightly, understanding that he meant no harm. The small exchange lifted Eli's spirits, yet he knew the city still feared what a human could do. They reached a wide open space near the edge of the city, where the wind swept gently over pale stones. The area was used for training the young aliens in balance and coordination. Eli watched as they moved carefully, testing their limits in a controlled environment. Even the smallest mistake caused a stumble, their long limbs barely able to correct themselves before touching the soft ground. The sight reminded him how different they were. Strength here was measured not in muscles or endurance, but in control and lightness. One human step could easily destroy everything they had built. Suddenly, a faint tremor shook the ground. Eli froze. The alien stiffened. The platform beneath them flexed slightly. He could see one of the younger trainees losing balance, a long leg slipping over the edge of a training area. Time seemed to slow. Instinct screamed at him to move, to catch the falling alien before it hit the ground. He hesitated. Yesterday he had reacted immediately. Today he tried to think, to control the human reflex that had made him appear a monster. The alien began to fall. Eli's mind acted faster than his caution. He leaped forward, careful to flex every muscle just enough to control the movement without sending himself flying. The suit adjusted for him, stabilizing gravity as he moved through the air. The young alien flailed, eyes wide with terror. Eli reached out, catching it mid-fall and landing on one knee, absorbing the impact with precise control. The group froze. No one spoke. From the perspective of every alien watching, Eli had leaped across the space like a creature from myth, moving through the air with impossible power. A hush fell, thick and heavy. The small alien he had saved clutched at him, trembling. Eli lowered it gently to the ground, keeping his hands raised to show he meant no harm. Rhine's voice shook. "Human, you must not move like that. You frighten them." Eli nodded, swallowing. "I know. I am trying." But he understood the truth. No matter how careful he was, no matter how controlled, a human body in this world was terrifying. He was no longer just a visitor. He was a force they could not comprehend, a flying demon in their eyes. Eli noticed whispers spreading among the observers. The sky demon moves again. It catches without falling. Fear colored every glance, every measurement, every calculation the aliens made. Eli felt the weight of their judgment, the fear of being a danger that followed him like a shadow. Even Ryan looked uneasy, eyes darting toward him at every movement, unsure if he would control himself or react instinctively. At midday, they reached a central plaza used for meetings and public announcements. The area was wide and open, fragile in appearance, supported by flexible beams that bent under the slightest pressure. Eli stepped carefully, testing each surface before placing his full weight. Firo, the young alien who had watched him the day before, hovered nearby, still keeping a cautious distance. Eli spoke softly, trying to explain himself. "I am not dangerous unless I lose control," he said. "I am trying to be careful." Firo listened, but remained hesitant, as if he could not unsee the previous day's events. The city suddenly shivered. The ground beneath the plaza flexed and creaked. A minor tremor, perhaps a natural shift in the planet's surface, caused one of the beams supporting a walkway to tilt slightly. An alien nearby froze in terror, unable to correct its balance. Eli's body reacted before he could think. He moved forward, careful to adjust his movements to the world's weak gravity. With a steady hand, he stabilized the beam, keeping the alien from falling. Gasps echoed across the plaza. Eli stepped back, hands raised. The fear was palpable. The human's instinct to act had saved a life. Yet the alien saw... Rhyme motioned for the group to retreat, leading them away from the plaza. Eli followed, keeping his distance, moving deliberately, careful to appear less threatening. As they walked, the whispers grew louder. The human leaps without falling. The demon saves without touching the ground. What is it capable of? Eli could feel the weight of every question, every calculation, every fearful glance. He realized that to these beings, a single action could define him forever. One misstep, one sudden move, and he would become a weapon they could never forgive. They reached a quiet courtyard, a place where the young aliens practiced delicate tasks. Eli paused, letting the group settle. He knelt carefully, observing them. Even small mistakes caused panic. Eli's heart ached. He understood their fragility, their fear of force, and he knew that his very presence challenged everything they had built. The thought weighed on him like a stone. Suddenly, a sharp alarm rang from nearby research buildings. The aliens froze again. Rin shouted instructions, pointing toward emergency procedures. A delicate instrument had shifted, threatening a minor collapse. Eli glanced at the situation. His body tensed. He wanted to act instinctively, to step forward, to stabilize everything. He restrained himself. He could not afford to frighten them further. Yet as the structure wobbled, the weak beams bending under even a small weight, Eli realized that hesitation would cause disaster. He calculated carefully, stepping forward slowly, adjusting his gravity suit to minimize impact. His hands reached out, steadying the structure without sudden force. The trembling beams stopped shifting. The young aliens looked on, stunned, as if they had seen a miracle. Ryan's voice shook. Do not do that again." Eli nodded. "I understand." But he knew it would happen again if instinct demanded it. He could not stop being human, and being human here meant frightening everyone around him. The rest of the afternoon passed with tension. Eli moved slowly, deliberately, every step measured. He answered questions cautiously, never leaning too far, never gesturing suddenly. Firo stayed nearby, watching closely, curiosity mingled with fear. Eli tried to teach him that not all humans were uncontrollable, that sometimes strength could be gentle, but the young alien could barely believe it. As evening approached, the city quieted. Eli found a small platform at the edge of the settlement and sat carefully, gazing at the soft, pale sky. The events of the day pressed on him. He had saved lives, stabilized structures, and avoided disaster, yet he was still seen as a monster. Flying demon. The words repeated in his mind. He realized that no matter what he did, fear would remain. The aliens would never forget his leaps, his strength, his impossible movements. Firo floated nearby, hesitant. "They still call you demon," he said softly. Eli nodded. "I know. I am careful, but I cannot hide what I am." Firo looked down, conflicted. They will never understand. Eli's eyes shifted toward the city, the buildings, the walkways, the fragile platforms. Everything depended on balance, patience, and control, and yet his very presence challenged all of it. Night fell, casting soft shadows across the city. Eli remained still on the platform, muscles tense but controlled. He felt the hum of the gravity stabilizers beneath him, the subtle pull of the world, and the awareness of every eye that had watched him today. He knew the coming days would be harder. The alien's fear was growing, spreading like a shadow across the city. One mistake could change everything. But Eli also knew he could not stop being human. Strength, instinct, reaction, these were part of him. Here in this fragile world, they were dangerous. Yet they were necessary. The young aliens' lives had depended on them. The structures of the city had survived because of them. And tomorrow, when the tremors came again, when instinct demanded action, he would have to decide whether to act or remain controlled. Above the city, the faint glow of the low sun reflected off the soft surfaces, casting long, pale shadows. Eli watched and breathed slowly, preparing for whatever would come next. The fear in the eyes of the aliens, the whispers of flying demon, the weight of being both savior and terror, all of it pressed on him. But he remained calm, patient, aware. He was human, and here, that was both a gift and a danger. The next morning, Eli awoke with a sense of tension heavier than the weak gravity of the planet. Yesterday's events had left a mark not just on the aliens, but on him as well. He could feel their eyes watching, their whispers following him even in the quiet moments. He knew the word flying demon had spread. It was no longer a single reaction to a sudden leap or a single saved life. It had grown, carried by fear and misunderstanding. Eli dressed carefully, testing the gravity suit at every movement. Even the act of standing was deliberate, measured, and controlled. Every tiny adjustment mattered. Ryan arrived early, gliding gently across the soft ground, his long limbs moving like flowing water. "Human," Rin said, voice low. "They are unsettled. You must be careful. Even small actions can terrify them. They do not yet trust your strength." Eli nodded, understanding completely. He had begun to see the world through their eyes, to imagine how impossible it must be to witness a body built for strength in a world built for delicacy. Every human step, every human gesture was a potential threat. He had to move not only carefully but predictably, slowly, gently, and yet remain ready to act if the city itself were at risk. The tour began in the outer districts again, but this time it was more tense. Observers lined the paths, keeping distance, whispering to one another. Children who had watched him yesterday kept close to parents, wary of every movement. Eli kept his pace slow, glancing around, letting his eyes communicate calm. Ryan explained various aspects of the city, the technology adapted for low gravity, the architecture designed to flex under the light pull of the planet. Eli listened, absorbing details, careful not to lean, jump, or step heavily. Each movement was a test of control, a demonstration of restraint in a world that would exaggerate any mistake. They reached a wide plaza where citizens gathered for morning announcements. The area was fragile, with platforms that bent slightly underweight and supports that were delicate but strong enough for their light bodies. Eli stepped carefully, 1 foot at a time, testing surfaces before placing full weight. From the edges, whispers rose. The flying demon moves again. It walks among us. What can it do next? Eli could feel the fear like a physical presence pressing against him, pushing him to step lighter, to move slower. He adjusted his breathing, centering himself. A sudden alarm rang from a nearby facility. It was faint at first, then louder. The city vibrated subtly, not dangerous by human standards, but enough to destabilize delicate walkways. Aliens froze, flinched, some backing away. Rin shouted instructions, pointing toward the source. Eli followed, careful, aware of every step. As they approached, Eli could see the problem. A small structural failure threatened one of the research halls. Panels were tilting, beams bending under the strain. If nothing was done, a collapse would injure several researchers and destroy delicate equipment. Eli's instincts kicked in. On Earth, he would have rushed forward, grabbed the failing structure, stabilized it in an instant. Here, he had to measure every movement, calculate weight, pull, and pressure. He moved slowly, shifting his body in ways that minimized impact while allowing him to reach the problem. He extended a hand, pressing gently against a support beam. It bent slightly, but held. He pushed again, stabilizing it, his body a balance of force and control. From the alien perspective, it looked impossible. A creature that could crush everything around it was holding a fragile building steady with a single touch. Gasps filled the plaza. Some stepped back, fear deepening. Ryan's long fingers twitched, a gesture of alarm mixed with relief. Do not do that again," Ryan shouted. But Eli only nodded. He had no choice. If he hesitated, the collapse would happen. If he acted without care, the city might crumble beneath him. Once the immediate danger passed, Eli stepped back slowly, hands raised to show no harm. The small aliens he had saved before hovered near him, eyes wide. Phiro stayed closer than usual, his long limbs trembling slightly.
"You are too strong," Phiro whispered.
"We cannot understand you." Eli knelt briefly to meet the alien's gaze. "I am trying," he said. "I am careful. I do not want to frighten anyone." Phiro hesitated, then nodded. "We will watch, always watch." The rest of the morning passed with tension. Eli moved like a shadow, deliberately, cautiously, aware of every observer. Even simple gestures, turning, reaching, stepping, were magnified by the weak gravity. Every motion could be interpreted as power, force, or threat. He realized that no matter how careful he was, the aliens would always see him as a danger. Yesterday he had acted instinctively to save a life, and today he had stabilized a building. Both acts were human, natural, necessary. Both acts had terrified them. By mid-afternoon, a new problem arose. A minor tremor shifted a distant support tower. The structure was not at risk of collapse, but sensors indicated that panels could slide off, endangering nearby citizens. The council debated evacuation, unsure if the human could help or if he would make things worse. Eli stepped forward, his instincts and understanding of physics guiding him. He calculated the movement carefully, adjusting his body, and moved toward the structure. With a slow push and pull, he stabilized panels that were sliding, anchoring them with his weight without triggering more fear. Whispers spread immediately. The demon moves among us. It saves, yet it terrifies. Eli felt the weight of every word, every glance. He knew the council would meet tonight to discuss his presence. The citizens had already begun to speculate. Some argued that humans could be controlled and used. Others said they were a threat, too dangerous to keep near. Eli wondered what would happen if he acted instinctively again. Would they understand the necessity, or would fear overcome reason? Ryan led him to a quiet area for rest. Eli lowered himself carefully onto the soft platform, muscles trembling from constant control. Firo hovered nearby, silent. "They cannot understand," the young alien said finally. "Not yet. They fear you because they cannot predict you." Eli nodded slowly. "I know. I cannot change what I am. I can only control it." Firo looked down, troubled but silent. The council convened at sunset. Eli remained nearby, restrained but visible, a demonstration that humans could follow rules. The elders discussed his presence, his actions, and his danger. Data from sensors and observers painted a picture of impossibility. A human had moved in ways that defied their physics, stabilized structures that should have collapsed, and saved lives without even seeming to touch the ground. Fear and admiration mingled in the discussion. Some argued to expel him. Others argued to study him carefully, to learn what made him so powerful. Eli listened quietly, understanding the danger of perception. In a fragile world, fear could outweigh reason. One misunderstanding could lead to disaster. He realized that he had become a symbol, not just a visitor. Flying demon, savior, weapon. All eyes were on him, and no action would be interpreted as neutral. As night fell, Eli returned to the outer platform. The city glowed softly beneath him. He stood carefully, feeling the light pull of gravity and the subtle vibrations beneath his feet. He thought of Earth, a world of heavy gravity, strong bones, and enduring muscles. Here, strength was a threat, and endurance was dangerous. Every human action, natural and necessary on Earth, was extraordinary here. Firo hovered close, eyes wide. "Tomorrow," he said quietly, "they will watch even more. They will not trust you. You must be careful." Eli nodded. "I will. I must. But if something happens, I will act." "I cannot ignore it." Fio looked down, conflicted. "And if they see you act?" "As you are?" Eli's lips pressed together. He did not answer. He did not know if any explanation could erase fear once it had grown. The night air was still. The night air was still. Stars hung pale and distant above the city. Eli moved slowly across the platform, testing balance, adjusting muscles, feeling the pull of the planet beneath him. He was careful, aware, and prepared. He knew the coming days would test both his patience and his control. One misstep, one instinctive move, and the alien's fear could become chaos. And yet, he could not stop being human. Strength, reaction, instinct, they were part of him. Here, they made him dangerous. Here, they made him terrifying. But here, they were necessary. Lives had been saved, structures stabilized, and the city endured because of what he was. Eli breathed slowly. eyes on the city below. The whispers of flying demon echoed faintly in his mind. He knew they would follow him tomorrow, and the next day, and perhaps the day after that. Every action, every choice was magnified in a world that had not evolved for power. Yet he remained calm, aware, and ready. He was human, and here, that was both a gift and a danger. Above the city, the soft hum of the gravity stabilizers pulsed. Eli felt it beneath his feet, a quiet reminder of the delicate balance he walked. One wrong move, and everything could collapse. One instinctive action, and fear would consume reason. Yet he stood still, careful, patient, controlled. He had learned that in this world, control was survival and awareness was power. The city watched. The council debated. The whispers grew. And the flying demon remained among them, a living legend of fear and necessity. The day began with tension thick in the air. Eli could feel it the moment he stepped onto the platform. Every eye in the city watched him. Whispers followed him like shadows. Flying demon, uncontrollable, dangerous. The council had not yet issued a decision about him, but the citizens were already divided. Some believed he was a savior, others that he was a threat too great to ignore. Eli adjusted his gravity suit carefully, testing every joint and sensor. Every movement had to be slow, deliberate, precise. One wrong motion could cause panic or worse. Ryan arrived first, gliding softly across the light ground. "The city is uneasy," he said, his voice low and trembling. "They do not understand your actions, and they fear what they cannot predict. Today will be challenging." Eli nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing down. He had already learned that strength in this world was both a gift and a danger. He could save lives, but he could also terrify. Every instinct had to be measured. The tour began as before, moving through the outer districts. Citizens kept their distance, parents holding children close. Eli noticed the tension in the air, the way small tremors or sudden gusts of wind made even the smallest aliens flinch. He walked carefully, adjusting his steps for the weak gravity, keeping his hands in sight, moving slowly to avoid startling anyone. Firo hovered nearby, observing, his eyes wide with fear and curiosity. As they reached a central area of the city, a low hum began. Eli felt it before anyone else did. The platform beneath them vibrated subtly, and a nearby tower, delicate and thin, began to sway. The sensors indicated a structural failure in progress. Panels were sliding, supports bending under their own weight. Eli froze, calculating. If he moved too quickly, he could destroy the structure entirely. If he hesitated, it could collapse, injuring several young aliens nearby. Instinct and calculation merged. Eli stepped forward, slow and controlled, testing every movement. He bent his knees, adjusted his center of gravity, and reached the failing supports. The panels shuddered beneath his touch, but his weight stabilized them. He pushed gently, guided the supports back into place. From the alien's perspective, it was a miracle or a monster holding a building with impossible power. Gasps and whispers rippled through the plaza. The young aliens stared in awe and fear, unable to understand what had just happened. Suddenly, the vibrations increased. A minor earthquake, perhaps natural, caused several other supports to wobble. The city's delicate architecture could not withstand much more. Eli realized that hesitation could cause a chain reaction of collapses. He moved carefully from one structure to another, placing weight precisely, adjusting movements to counter the weak gravity, anchoring panels, stabilizing beams. His actions were rapid but measured. instinctive but controlled. The council arrived, floating to a safe observation platform above the plaza. Their eyes were wide, voices quiet as they watched the human move among structures that should have crumbled. Eli could feel their judgment pressing down on him, their fear mingling with awe. To them, he was not just a visitor. He was a force of nature, a flying demon moving through their city with impossible power. As he stabilized a particularly weak walkway, a young alien slipped. Eli reacted instantly, leaning forward, catching the creature midair. The leap was longer than the plaza should have allowed, his body arcing across the space as if defying gravity itself. The alien screamed, wide-eyed, as Eli landed softly, knees bent, arms extended to stabilize both himself and the child. The crowd froze. From their perspective, he had flown. Ryan's long fingers twitched in alarm. "Do not," he began, but it was too late. The citizens had already seen the act. The words spread through the crowd. Flying demon, sky predator, human weapon. Eli knew he could not explain, could not show reason. The city saw power and fear. Nothing else mattered. Despite the fear, he continued. Another panel threatened to slide from a high platform. Eli leaped carefully, reaching it mid-air, stabilizing it with controlled pressure. The weak gravity worked in his favor, allowing longer leaps than Earth would permit, but he had to calculate precisely. One misstep could send him crashing into the city or injuring an alien. He landed, adjusted his weight, and moved to the next structure. The city held, barely, under his guidance. A sudden gust of wind from a vent tower lifted loose panels in another part of the plaza. Eli reacted instantly, running faster than the aliens could comprehend. He leaped, caught the panels mid-flight, and anchored them against the weak supports. His actions were fluid, precise, yet terrifying. The young aliens and council watched silently, unable to comprehend the limits of his body. Each leap, each motion reinforced the image of a flying demon. As the day progressed, the tremors continued. Eli moved tirelessly, stabilizing multiple structures, guiding falling citizens to safety, catching panels and beams in impossible arcs. From the human perspective, he was acting naturally, instinctively, as he would have trained on Earth. From the alien perspective, he was a creature of legend, defying gravity, bending structures with his bare hands, saving lives while terrifying every observer. By mid-afternoon, the main tower in the city's center began to tilt dangerously. It was the tallest structure, a delicate lattice of supports and panels designed to flex slightly in the low gravity. Sensors indicated imminent collapse. Eli froze briefly, analyzing. The tower's weight, combined with the tremors and wind, made human strength both necessary and dangerous. If he miscalculated, the tower would fall, crushing anyone nearby. He adjusted the gravity suit, testing every joint and muscle. Then he moved, slowly at first, testing weight distribution, placing his hands on key supports. He pushed and pulled, flexing muscles in ways that maintained balance. As the structure shifted, he adjusted, moving along the beams carefully, stabilizing each weak point. The citizens watched in awe, some cheering softly, others frozen in fear. The council murmured among themselves, unsure whether to intervene or observe. A small panel gave way near the top of the tower, threatening to fall. Eli leaped, long and controlled, catching it mid-air, anchoring it against the lattice. From the alien's perspective, he had flown across space, defying gravity and physics itself. Gasps filled the plaza, and whispers spread, "Flying demon, savior, unstoppable." Eli landed lightly, knees bent, adjusting for balance, and continued his work. Suddenly, A young alien lost balance on a nearby walkway. Eli reacted instantly, catching the creature mid-fall, spinning lightly in the weak gravity to absorb the momentum. The child clung to him, wide-eyed, as he landed safely. More gasps followed. Citizens stared in disbelief, unable to comprehend a human moving with such precision and power in a world that was not built for him. Rin moved close, voice trembling. "Human, your actions are necessary, but they terrify everyone. Please be careful." Eli nodded, exhausted but focused. "I must act. I will control myself as best I can." The tremors worsened as the day wore on. Structures swayed, supports groaned, and citizens panicked. Eli moved tirelessly, stabilizing beams, catching falling panels, guiding young aliens to safety. Each motion was precise, deliberate, and controlled. Yet from the observer's perspective, it was impossible. A human was moving through the city like a creature of myth, a flying demon saving lives while terrifying every onlooker. By late afternoon, the main plaza was stabilized, but the tremors had shifted to the outer districts. Eli moved quickly, still controlled, leaping across weak bridges, stabilizing walkways, catching falling citizens. Each action reinforced the image the city had built of him. The flying demon was real. They could not deny it. Fear mingled with gratitude, admiration with terror. As evening approached, Eli finally slowed. The tremors lessened, the city held. He stood on a platform in the center of the plaza, breathing heavily, muscles trembling from constant control. The young aliens gathered near him, safe but wide-eyed, watching him as if he were a creature of legend. Phiro floated close, long limbs trembling slightly.
"You saved us all."
"But they still fear you." Eli nodded. "I know."
"I cannot stop being human. I cannot stop reacting. I can only control myself as best I can." Rin approached, voice low. "The council will decide your future tonight. They have seen what you can do. They have seen the power and the danger. They do not yet understand you, and fear is strong." Eli looked at the city, lights glowing softly beneath him, buildings trembling faintly with every minor movement. "I do not need them to understand me," he said. "I only need to protect them." Night fell over the city, the stars pale and distant. Eli remained on the platform, muscles aching but controlled, surveying the settlement he had saved. He knew the council's discussion would be long, that the citizens would continue to whisper, that the image of the flying demon would follow him forever. And yet, he felt a quiet satisfaction. Lives had been saved, structures had endured. The city had survived because of what he was, human, strong, instinctive. He breathed slowly, aware of every movement, every vibration beneath his feet. Tomorrow, the council would decide whether humans were welcome here, whether he was seen as a savior or a threat. But for now, the city slept, fragile but intact. The flying demon remained among them, real and undeniable, a force of life and fear intertwined. Eli knew that being human here was both a gift and a danger, and he accepted it fully. The next morning, the city was quiet but tense. Eli stood on the outer platform, looking over the pale structures that had survived yesterday's tremors. The citizens moved carefully through the streets, watching him from a distance. He could feel their fear, their admiration, and their awe. Flying demon. Weapon. Savior. The whispers had grown, spreading to every corner of the city. Eli adjusted his gravity suit carefully, testing every joint and sensor. Every step today mattered. The council would meet and decide what would happen next. and the weight of their decision pressed on him like a stone. Ryan arrived first, gliding softly across the platform, his long limbs moving in smooth, flowing lines. "Human," he said, voice quiet and tense. "The council has gathered. They will watch you today. Their decision will determine whether you stay, leave, or are treated as a threat. You must act carefully, control every movement, and show them you mean no harm." Eli nodded. He had already learned that being human in this world was both a gift and a danger. Every instinct had to be controlled, every action measured. His strength could save lives, but it could also terrify, and he had to balance both. The council assembled in the main plaza, their pale forms floating above the ground on observation platforms. Citizens gathered at safe distances, their eyes wide. Firo hovered nearby, watching Eli with a mixture of fear and respect. The council spoke quietly among themselves before addressing him. Rin translated their words, careful not to add meaning of his own. Eli listened intently. "You have saved lives, human," Ryan said, "but your strength terrifies us. Your actions are beyond our understanding. We must decide if your presence is welcome or dangerous." Eli took a deep breath. He knew there was no way to explain himself fully. Words would not erase the image of a flying demon leaping through the air and moving structures with his bare hands. He would have to demonstrate restraint, control, and reason. The first test came unexpectedly. A tremor, stronger than before, shifted a nearby platform, loosening panels and threatening the safety of several young aliens. The council froze, unsure whether to intervene or allow him to act. Eli did not hesitate. He adjusted his stance, moving slowly but firmly, calculating every motion. He reached the unstable platform, steadying it with precise pressure. The panels stopped sliding, and the young aliens remained safe. The council murmured among themselves, a mixture of fear and awe in their voices. Ellie stepped back, hands raised, showing no aggression. The citizens whispered among themselves, still fearful but beginning to see the necessity of his actions. He had saved lives again, but each motion reminded them of his strength, the impossible power a human body could wield in their delicate world. As the morning passed, tremors continued in different parts of the city. Eli moved from structure to structure, stabilizing panels, catching falling citizens, guiding young aliens to safety. Every action was precise, controlled, and careful, but from the aliens' perspective, he moved like a creature of myth. They watched, unable to comprehend how a human could act with such instinct and power while maintaining control. The words "flying demon" spread again, now mixed with reverence. A human could save without destroying, act without harming, and yet inspire fear. By midday, the main tower of the city, the tallest and most delicate structure, began to tilt slightly. Sensors indicated a collapse was possible if not corrected quickly. The council debated, their voices tense. Eli observed, calculating. He knew the tower could fall if handled incorrectly, but he also knew he could stabilize it. He adjusted his gravity suit, testing muscles, testing balance, and moved carefully toward the structure. The citizens held their breath as he leaped onto the lattice of supports. His movement was fluid, precise, a combination of instinct and calculation. He pressed against weak panels, shifted supports, and guided the tower back into alignment. From the alien perspective, he had flown, moved across impossible distances, and stabilized a structure that should have collapsed under his weight. The council murmured in astonishment, some hesitant, others silent in awe. Suddenly, a young alien trainee lost balance on a nearby beam. Eli reacted instantly, reaching out, catching the creature mid-air. He adjusted his landing carefully, knees bent, body twisting slightly to absorb momentum. The young alien clung to him, wide-eyed, safe. Gasps and whispers filled the plaza. Flying demon. Savior. Impossible. Eli felt the weight of their gaze but remained calm. He had acted to protect, not to frighten, and now he had to show restraint. After stabilizing the tower, he stepped back, lowering his hands slowly. The citizens began to murmur quietly among themselves, some relieved, others still fearful. Rin floated close, voice trembling. "They are beginning to understand," he said softly. "They see that you act with care, that you save, not harm. But fear remains." Eli nodded, knowing it would take more than one day for trust to grow. He had to demonstrate not only power but patience, control, and reason. The afternoon brought new challenges. Panels loosened on outer platforms, a bridge flexed under pressure, and small tremors caused citizens to stumble. Eli moved carefully, stabilizing every problem as it arose. Each leap, each action was measured to minimize impact while ensuring safety. From the alien perspective, he moved like a demon from the sky, impossible and unstoppable. Yet each motion also protected lives and structures, showing the necessity of human strength in a world unprepared for it. By evening, the city was stable again. The council gathered for a final discussion. Rin translated their words. "Human, you have acted to save lives repeatedly. You have shown control, restraint, and care. Your presence has been necessary, yet fear remains. We cannot fully understand your strength or your instincts. We must decide if you may remain among us, leave freely, or be restricted." Eli listened quietly, understanding that this decision would shape his future and the perception of humans in this world. He stepped forward, voice calm but steady. "I do not seek to harm," he said. "I act to protect. I cannot stop being human, but I can control my actions. I ask only to be allowed to continue observing, helping when necessary, and respecting your world." The council paused, considering his words. Rhine translated carefully. The citizens remained silent, watching, waiting for the decision. After a long moment, the council spoke. "Human," Rin said, "we have seen your actions. We have seen your strength and your care. You are both dangerous and necessary. We will allow you to remain, not as a weapon, but as a visitor, a guide, and a protector when needed. You must continue to act with restraint. Your presence will be studied and monitored."
"You are welcome, but caution must remain." Eli nodded, relief washing over him.
He understood the balance required: strength and control, fear and respect. He would have to maintain all of them in this fragile world. The citizens began to disperse slowly, still whispering among themselves. Some approached cautiously, offering nods or soft greetings. Firo hovered near Eli, long limbs shaking slightly. "They understand a little more," he said quietly. Eli smiled faintly.
Yes, but it will take time.
"They must learn patience, just as I must learn restraint." Firo nodded, still watching him with wide eyes. As night fell, Eli remained on the outer platform, looking over the city. Lights glowed softly beneath him, buildings flexing slightly with the low gravity. The tremors had ceased for the moment, and the citizens were safe. He thought of Earth, a world of heavy gravity and dense bodies. Here, strength had been dangerous, fear had been high, and instinct had been necessary. He realized that being human in this world was both a gift and a responsibility. He felt the subtle pull of gravity beneath his feet, the hum of stabilizers in the city, and the quiet watch of citizens still wary of him. Yet he also felt a sense of accomplishment. Lives had been saved. Structures had endured. The city had survived because of what he was: human, instinctive, strong, and careful. The council had acknowledged it, the citizens had seen it, and trust, though fragile, had begun to grow. Firo hovered close, voice soft. "Will you leave someday?" he asked. Eli shook his head. "Not yet. There is still much to learn, much to protect. I will stay as long as I am needed, and as long as I am allowed." Firo nodded, comforted, and floated silently beside him. Eli turned his gaze to the stars. Earth was far, distant, heavy, and full of memories. Here he was a stranger, a flying demon in the eyes of the citizens, yet also a protector, a symbol of what humans could do. Strength, instinct, and control had saved a city, built trust, and reshaped perception. He understood now that being human was more than power. It was responsibility, patience, and awareness. The city slept beneath him, fragile but intact. The council's decision had secured his presence, but he knew the image of the flying demon would remain. Fear would not vanish overnight, and he would have to continue to act carefully, demonstrating control and restraint every day. Yet he also knew that humans could endure impossible circumstances, adapt, and protect. That was his gift, his legacy, and his responsibility. As the night deepened, Eli remained on the platform, muscles relaxed but ready, eyes on the city below. He felt the hum of the stabilizers, the subtle vibrations of the structures, and the quiet watch of the citizens. Flying demon, savior, protector. He had become all of these, not by choice, but by necessity. The future stretched ahead, full of challenges, tremors, and the watchful eyes of a fragile world. But Eli felt ready. He understood what it meant to be human here, to act with strength, to control instinct, to balance fear and care. He had learned patience, restraint, and awareness, and he knew that the city, fragile though it was, had survived because of those qualities. Above the city, stars shone pale and distant. Eli stood still, letting the night settle, knowing that tomorrow would bring new tremors, new tests, and new opportunities to demonstrate what humans could do. He had earned trust, saved lives, and shown that even in a world not made for strength, humans could endure, adapt, and protect. The flying demon was no longer just a fearsome legend. He was a reality, and a promise that strength used wisely could save even the most delicate of worlds.